Hello everyone, welcome to the next session of CSAT Weekly. And today in this session, we will complete our CSAT 2020 question paper. So we are still left with 5 passages. Today we will see that. Again, we will start by analyzing the passage and then by solving them. So the first passage that we have is this one. It is based on some potato tuber from South America. So based on your GS knowledge. Then one question with it. Then you have passage 2 and again one question with it, although the length of the passage is a little bit more. And then you have options also 1 2 3 4 5 जिसमें से you have to select कि कौन सा option answer होगा. But we know that in such questions what is the benefit? We get more accuracy because आप clearly option eliminate से ये answer कर सकते हो. ठीक है. Then passage 3. Okay, again a bit lengthy, and then question also has these options, but that does not mean that such questions are not to be attempted. In fact, if you will see that there are options that can be easily eliminated, then you do. For example, here if you say that statement 1 cannot be your answer, that means 1 is eliminated from here and here both. Only 2 options are left. ठीक है, तो ऐसे question करने हैं. It's not that you do not have to do the passage which are lengthy. In fact, they guarantee more accuracy, even though time lagta hai, but guarantees more accuracy. Then you have passage 4. Okay, again now this is the passage of average length also, and then you have options such that you can do elimination. And passage 5, with this you have 2 questions. So one observation that we made was in 2020 also not a lot of passages had multiple questions. ठीक है, जैसे 2022 में था ये pattern, a lot of passages had so many questions, so level of difficulty of the paper in English section reduced, right? But in 2020 it's not like that, and in the other years as well ऐसा नहीं है. So you get most commonly you get one passage, you get one question with it or 2 questions with it. That is the most common pattern being followed in UPSC. Now, let's start by reading the very first passage. Okay, so let's see. Spanish ships in the late 16th century first brought the potato tuber from South America to Europe, where in the early 19th century it had become a reliable backup to cereal crops, particularly in the cold, rain-soaked soils of Ireland. ठीक है? The Irish were soon almost wholly dependent on the potato as their staple food, and they were planting primarily one prodigious variety, lumper potato, whose genetic frailty would be cruelly exposed by the fungus Phytophthora infestans. Phytophthora infestans. So, अब इसमें क्या है that the Irish were soon almost wholly dependent. Irish ने क्या किया? They were wholly dependent on this potato as their staple food. इन्होंने introduce किया. Spanish ships first brought the potato tuber from South America to Europe, जहां पर cereal crops के लिए बहुत अच्छा backup बन गया. ठीक है? And then they started using and they started being wholly dependent on this potato as their staple food, but इसका genetic frailty would be cruelly exposed by the fungus. ठीक है, so it further eventually क्या हुआ? The genetic frailty, that means how frail it is, how fragile it is, that got exposed by this fungus. कैसे हुआ? In 1845 spores of the deadly fungus began spreading across the country, destroying nearly all the lumpers in its path. Resulting famine killed or displaced millions. Now, see, अब क्या है इस पैसेज में? Without reading the options, question है which of the following statement best reflects the critical message? क्या message reflect किया author ने? Author is saying that ये introduce हुआ, ठीक है? इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ, बैकग्राउंड दे दिया, जस्ट टू मेक श्योर दैट यू नो व्हाट इज द टॉपिक व्हिच वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. ये पोटैटो का वैरायटी जो है इंट्रोड्यूस हुआ. इट वाज नॉट देयर ट्रेडिशनल क्रॉप, ठीक है, एंड इट गॉट इंट्रोड्यूस्ड फ्रॉम साउथ अमेरिका टू यूरोप. इट हैड बिकम अ रिलायबल बैकअप टू सीरियल. उसके बाद क्या हुआ? इट बिकेम बैकअप टू सीरियल क्रॉप्स. ठीक है, टू सीरियल क्रॉप्स, जहां पर particularly in the cold rain soaked soils of Ireland, जहां पर cereal crops were not that possible to grow at that point of time. ठीक है, तो इसने क्या किया, एक बेसिकली void था वो फिल किया, वहां पर वैक्यूम जो था उस मार्केट में वो फिल किया, एंड इवेंचुअली ये क्या होने लगा, दे गॉट टोटली डिपेंडेंट ऑन दिस क्रॉप. बट ये क्रॉप क्या निकला? फ्रेजाइल, बिकॉज ऑफ एक फंगस. अब आपने क्या किया, इतना ज्यादा इसी क्रॉप पर आप डिपेंडेंट हो गए, एंड ये क्रॉप निकला, दिस वाज फ्रेजाइल बिकॉज ऑफ दिस फंगस. एंड देन व्हाट हैपेंड वाज countrywide famine killed or displaced millions. So क्या हुआ? तो ऑथर की प्रॉब्लम क्या है? अगेन क्रिटिकल मैसेज. ऑथर, व्हाट डज द ऑथर वांट टू से? ऑथर क्या कहना चाहता है? पोटैटो खाना बंद कर दो. ऑथर क्या कहना चाह रहा है कि पोटैटो खाना बंद कर दो? ऑब्वियसली नॉट. ऑथर का पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ये है कि आप एक क्रॉप पर डिपेंड नहीं हो सकते. व्हेन यू आर बीइंग डिपेंडेंट ऑन दिस क्रॉप, you do not know what problem it might encounter, and that might lead to famine like situation in your country or your area. ठीक है, तो ये प्रॉब्लम है. दिस इज द जिस्ट ऑफ द पैसेज. अब देखो ऑप्शन क्या क्या है. फॉर इंट्रोड्यूसिंग एनी फॉरेन प्लांट इनटू अ कंट्री, सॉइल एंड क्लाइमेट कंडीशन ऑफ दैट कंट्री शुड बी सुटेबल. ये करेक्ट है. ऑब्वियसली आप कोई इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहे हो तो सॉइल वगैरह शुड बी सुटेबल, बट वो तो सुटेबल ही इंट्रोड्यूस किया था. दैट वाज इन फैक्ट जो आपका यहाँ पर पर्टिकुलरली इन द कोल्ड रेन सोक्ड सॉइल्स ऑफ आयरलैंड, यहाँ पर इट वाज हेल्पिंग देम बिकॉज सीरियल प्लांट्स वर नॉट बीइंग एबल टू ग्रो ड्यूरिंग दैट टाइम. ठीक है, तो वहां पर इट वाज बीइंग अ हेल्प. तो यस, ऐसे ही इंट्रोड्यूस किया था. बट ऑथर का ये पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू नहीं है कि वहां पर सॉइल की प्रॉब्लम हुई. प्रॉब्लम किस चीज की हुई? बीइंग डिपेंडेंट ऑन दैट पर्टिकुलर क्रॉप, जिसकी वजह से वो खराब हुआ, तो फेमीन. नेक्स्ट, as a staple food of a country, tuber crops like potato cannot replace cereal crops. Now again, कहीं पैसेज में है ही नहीं that it replaced. It helped, जहां पर बैकअप बना, वो रिलायबल बैकअप था टू सीरियल क्रॉप्स. तो ऐसा तो ऑथर ने बोला ही नहीं that you cannot replace cereal crops, या there is no comparison between potato and cereal का importance कि कौन सा इरिप्लेसेबल है कौन सा रिप्लेसेबल है, ऐसी कोई कंपैरिजन नहीं है. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट, सम ऑफ द फंगल इन्फेक्शंस ऑफ प्लांट्स कैन नॉट बी प्रिवेंटेड और स्टॉप्ड फ्रॉम स्प्रेडिंग अक्रॉस लार्ज एरियाज. Now this is also a generalized point of view, and ये ठीक भी है. Some of the fungal infections cannot be prevented or stopped. Let's say नहीं हो सकते ये prevent, but is this the message that is being conveyed? Is this the critical message of the passage? Message क्या है? Relying on a homogeneous food source is not desirable. एक पे rely करोगे तो famine like conditions हो सकती है if that crop fails. So option D, this will be your answer. So simply you have to understand point of view of author, and you have to understand कि वो reading comprehension क्यों मिला है, what is the main purpose of that reading comprehension. वो क्या convey करना चाहता है. ये convey नहीं करना चाहता कि fungal infections cannot be prevented. This is not what the author wants to convey कि fungal infection prevent नहीं हो सकती. Point of view ये नहीं है. Point of view ये है कि अभी पहले cereal था, तो बट विंटर और ये मॉइस्ट वेदर के लिए जो इंट्रोड्यूस किया पोटैटो, दैट वाज आल्सो हेल्पिंग. देन वो क्रॉप पर क्या हुआ, ज्यादा ही डिपेंडेंस कर लिया, एंड उससे जब पता चला कि दैट इज सच अ फ्रेजाइल क्रॉप की वो फंगल इन्फेक्शन से पूरा ही क्रॉप जो है दैट गॉट डिस्ट्रॉयड, एंड फर्दर व्हाट हैपेंड वाज फेमीन. सो दैट वाज द इशू कि आप उस पर डिपेंडेंट हो गए एंड वो खराब हो गया. सो होमोजीनियस मीन्स वन टाइप पे डिपेंडेंट नहीं होना है. If you would have introduced many varieties, तो उस क्रॉप के खराब होने से आपको प्रॉब्लम नहीं होती इतनी. India is at once among the fastest growing global economies. चलो इस क्वेश्चन को, because we know that we can do this using option elimination, let's see whether there are certain points जो कि बहुत ही relevant है. India's public distribution system should be monitored by the union government. Okay, so one thing is that in your UPSC CSAT also reading comprehensions, जो point of view इतना जो point of view is not generalized, ठीक है, वो आप नहीं implement करते हो, ठीक है. For example, ये public distribution system is not individually under union government, exclusively नहीं है under union government, तो वो answer में भी नहीं होता, author का point of view भी नहीं होता. Although there are people who can say this, who can write this also, but exam में usually जो जो कि ऐसे points होते हैं which are not really correct or which are not really justified, they are not included. But again, let's leave this and we will see point 2. Girls should be encouraged to delay marriage and first pregnancy. Okay, so हो सकता है this can be true, because if we are talking about how young girls are getting married, pregnancy related issues, maternal health of the girl, then yes, this can be one of the suggestions. Next you have mothers should be encouraged to breastfeed their children immediately after birth. This is also true, even doctors advise that this should be done. So yes, this can also be one of the options. Next you have supply of safe drinking water and proper sanitation facilities to all should be ensured. This is also correct, this can also be the answer. And you have authorities should ensure the vaccination should ensure vaccination as prescribed. Okay, so vaccination as prescribed, this can also be answered. The only point of contradiction, see, you do not have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of these in one option you do not have. The only point of contradiction which I feel is first one, कि India का PDS system should be monitored by the union government. ठीक है? So that means if I go by this, option B should be my answer. Why? Because 5 तो बिल्कुल correct है. ऑप्शन ए क्या बोल रहा है कि फिफ्थ नहीं होना चाहिए. फिफ्थ तो करेक्ट है. अथॉरिटीज should ensure the vaccination as prescribed. Okay, so अब passage पढ़ते हैं. India is at once among the fastest growing global economies and home to the largest number of malnourished children in the world. देखो, so ये बता दिया, malnourishment is the issue. There are regions where malnutrition is not the exception but the norm. And across the country, malnutrition is the cause of death for roughly half the 1.3 million children who die before their 5th birthday each year. Even those children who survive suffer permanently from the damage that has already been done to their body and mind from not getting enough of the right foods and nutrition. Okay, so even those who survive, they also face damage from the not getting enough nutrition and everything. Around 44 million children under 5 are stunted. That makes it harder for them to learn in school and subsequently earn a living as adults. Their lifetime earnings potential is almost a quarter less than of their healthy peers. So इनका earning potential भी क्या हो जाता है? Almost a quarter, 1/4 or less than that of their healthy peers. Okay, so see, in this question you have, with reference to the above passage, which of the following are the most rational and practical implications? So now अब देखो implications क्या है? To improve the health of children, ठीक है? To improve the health of babies that are being born, ये सब implications होनी चाहिए, that will help this. India's PDS system should be monitored by union government, ये implication हो सकती है. Again, this is incorrect. ऐसा तो हम बोल ही नहीं रहे. The passage is not talking about lacking of distribution system. Distribution system में problem है, ऐसा नहीं बोला है. The problem is that children are being malnourished and everything. ठीक है, that can happen even if the distribution system works fine. Then you have girls should be encouraged to delay marriage and first pregnancy. पहले तो जब आप first eliminate कर लेते हो तो you are left with 2, 3, 4, 5. Which is one of the favorable solutions, but you also have 3, 5 and 1 only. 1 only तो होगा नहीं, so आप ये भी सोच सकते हो कि 3, 5 है, but you know, अब देखो this, अब इसमें ना यहाँ पे हमें अपनी GS की knowledge use करनी है. we know that when we talk about health of infants and everything, we talk about how mother's health is the most important, plays the most important role in that. Okay, and that is why we talk about maternal care and everything uh, during that time, and we also talk about maternity leave and all of that stuff. So you know that girls should be encouraged to delay marriage and first pregnancy. This will lead to obviously the health of the children. So that means 2 can be one of the implications. Okay, but even if we are not sure here, I know mothers should be encouraged to breastfeed their children. 3 तो correct ही है. Yes, they should be encouraged. Supply of safe drinking water and proper sanitation facilities to all should be ensured. Again correct. Authorities should ensure the vaccination as prescribed. Again correct. So even if 2 का unsure लग रहा है, 3, 4, 5 से you can say option B is your answer. ठीक है. Okay, moving on to the next passage. In this passage, you have pulse variety Pusa Arhar 16 has the potential to be grown in paddy growing regions of Punjab and Haryana. अब देखो इतना बड़ा passage है. So again, we will go by that approach of reading the statements first. ठीक है. Farmers, which of the following are the most rational inferences? Farmers' income will be higher with pulse cultivation than with paddy cultivation. कि pulse cultivation से income higher होगी rather than paddy cultivation. Now, see, let's say we do not know anything about it. हम इसके बारे में अभी कुछ बोल नहीं सकते, right? Pulse cultivation causes less pollution as compared to paddy cultivation. Again, it can be one of the things that is being implied in the passage. Pulse straw can be used to improve soil quality. ये तो हमें पता है, this is true. Next, in the context of northern Indian agriculture, paddy straws has no usefulness. अब ये देखना, northern Indian UPSC usually gives you one such extreme incorrect statement. In the context of northern Indian agriculture, North India के agriculture में paddy straw has no usefulness. कोई usefulness ही नहीं है उसकी. This is so incorrect. ठीक है, so option 4 we know it is not possible. So I am eliminating B and D. Okay, next you have 5th, mechanized agriculture is the main cause for stubble burning. अब ये बताओ, क्या ये लॉजिकल कुछ बात है कि आप मैकेनाइज्ड एग्रीकल्चर ला रहे हो, दैट इज द मेन रीजन फॉर स्टबल बर्निंग? इन फैक्ट टेक्नोलॉजी मशीन्स आर हेल्पिंग टू डिस्पोज ऑफ दैट वेस्ट. टेक्नोलॉजी एंड मशीन्स हम क्यों लाना चाहते हैं? टू हेल्प अस इन all the various levels of processing in agriculture. So 5th will help instead of main cause for stubble burning. Also stubble burning was earlier also when agriculture was not mechanized, तब भी stubble burning होता था. So how can mechanized agriculture be the main cause? This is a good thing. The only issue with mechanization of agriculture is that labor displacement and everything, वो सब अलग चीज है. But in general, agriculture के लिए having more machines makes it easier for us to do our work. ठीक है? So 2, 3 and 5, 2, 3, 5, all 3 seem correct. Now we will read the passage. Pulse variety Pusa Arhar has the potential to be grown in paddy growing regions of Punjab, Haryana and Uttar Pradesh, eventually in all of India. So इसके पास ये potential है कि जहां पर mainly paddy growing region है, वहां पर you can also grow this pulse variety. Its yield will be significantly greater than those of existing varieties, and because its size will be uniform, it will be amenable to mechanical harvesting. So आप इसमें mechanical harvesting भी कर सकते हो. Why? Because its size is the same, uniform, and an attractive feature of farmers in the northern India who currently use this technology for paddy. ठीक है, तो उससे help होगा because they want to have to grow a plant that can use technology और easy कर दे आपका काम. ठीक है. Most important, arhar straw, unlike paddy straw, is green and can be plowed back into the soil. अब क्या बोला है? अरहर स्ट्रॉ जो है, अनलाइक पैडी स्ट्रॉ, कैन बी प्लोड बैक इनटू द सॉइल. आप उसको वापस सॉइल में डाल सकते हो टू रिप्लेनिश द न्यूट्रिएंट्स इन द सॉइल. इन पैडी स्ट्रॉ, Problem is high silica content which does not allow for easy decomposition. In the case, so see यहाँ पर लिखा है कि पैडी स्ट्रॉ में हाई सिलिका हाई सिलिका कंटेंट है जिसकी वजह से आप उसको वापस से फील्ड में नहीं फ्लो कर सकते एंड यू बिकॉज वो डिकम्पोज नहीं होता इजीली, ठीक है। वी नो डिकम्पोज होगा तो न्यूट्रिएंट्स बनेंगे, वो डिकम्पोज ही नहीं होता है, तो दैट इज व्हाई यू कैन नॉट पुट इट। बट इज पैडी स्ट्रॉ यूजलेस? वी नो दैट वेस्ट इज ऑल्सो बीइंग सोल्ड, ठीक है, तो दैट कैन, तो इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि वो यूजलेस है, वापस से वो फील्ड में न्यूट्रिएंट्स के लिए यूज नहीं कर सकते आप, बट दैट स्टिल डजंट मीन कि इट इज यूजलेस ओनली। नेक्स्ट, in the case of arhar, farmer even after combine harvesting just needs to run a rotavator to cut the leftover straw into pieces which can be plowed back and will decompose very fast. All this is difficult with leftover paddy stalks that cannot be easily salvaged or plowed back. Farmers therefore choose the easiest option of simply burning it. इस वजह से क्या होता है, वो burn कर देते हैं, because क्योंकि उनके पास कोई ऑप्शन ही नहीं होता, नो अदर ऑप्शन, वो दे सिंपली बर्न इट। अब इसका मतलब क्या है, दैट डजंट मीन कि एक तो कि ये यूजलेस है, देन नेक्स्ट थिंग इज दैट डजंट मीन कि मैकेनिकल एग्रीकल्चर की वजह से आप उसको बर्न कर रहे हो। मैकेनिकल एग्रीकल्चर इज नॉट द रीजन व्हाई दे आर बर्निंग इट, दे आर बर्निंग इट बिकॉज वो अब उनके काम के नहीं आ रही है, ठीक है। सो वी नो ऑप्शन 5, this cannot be one of the answers. Again, be eliminated. In context of northern India, paddy straw has no usefulness. Again, you cannot say no usefulness. There might be people who might be using it for something or the other. No usefulness तो आप बोल ही नहीं सकते, ठीक है, आप उसको replenish नहीं कर रहे हो and everything, but no usefulness आप बोल, you cannot say no usefulness. Then you have, because again extreme option, ठीक है। And उसके बाद next you have farmers income will be higher with pulse cultivation than with paddy cultivation. Again इसके बारे में भी हमने कोई बात नहीं की कि फार्मर की इनकम क्या होगी, ये नहीं, पल्स के फायदे, पल्स के बेनिफिट्स बताए हैं, दे आर टेलिंग यू अबाउट द बेनिफिट्स ऑफ ग्रोइंग पल्स इंस्टेड ऑफ पैडी, दैट यू कैन यूज इट फॉर रिकल्टिवेशन एवरीथिंग। इनकम का वी हैवंट टोल्ड एनीथिंग, सो 2 and 3 ऑप्शन सी, दिस विल बी योर आंसर। ओके, 5 नहीं हो सकता तो ऑप्शन ए इज ऑल्सो एलिमिनेटेड। All right, moving on to next, that is passage 4. In India, authorities always look to store the maximum amount of water in reservoirs during the monsoon season, which is then used for irrigation and generation of electricity during the summer months. Okay, so हम इंडिया में क्या करते हैं, authorities look to store maximum water कहाँ पर, reservoirs में, in the monsoon season. Obviously we know India mein monsoon is distributed unevenly, right? Rainfall is distributed unevenly, so we know that reservoirs mein hum water store karte hain during the monsoon season, which is then used for irrigation and generation of electricity during the summer months. It is an internationally accepted practice that the water level of a reservoir should be kept below a certain level before the onset of monsoon season. तो ये भी it is a traditional वो accepted practice कि water level को ना कम रखना है below a certain level before the onset of monsoon season. This is so that when monsoon rain comes, there is space to store the excess rain water and also so that water can be released in a regulated manner. ठीक है, but the authorities store the maximum amount of water in reservoirs even before the close of monsoon. बट वो क्लोज ऑफ मॉनसून से पहले ही मैक्सिमम अमाउंट ऑफ वाटर पहले ही स्टोर कर लेते हैं, ओनली टू एंश्योर ग्रेटर इलेक्ट्रिसिटी जनरेशन एंड इरिगेशन। सो किस लिए, टू एंश्योर कि और ज्यादा इलेक्ट्रिसिटी और इरिगेशन वगैरह ये सब जनरेट हो पाए। नेक्स्ट, विद रेफरेंस टू द अबव पैसेज, फॉलोइंग assumptions have been made. High risk involved in holding maximum water in reservoirs are due to our over dependence on hydropower projects. ठीक है, अब देखो, see, firstly the question is assumption, that means we already have discussed that assumption can be somewhere from somewhere out of the passage. Now we know that authorities जो है हम reservoirs पे dependent है, reservoirs में excess water store करें so that electricity और irrigation के लिए हम generate we can use that water. So that means obviously we are overly dependent on it. क्योंकि हम अगर ओवर डिपेंडेंट नहीं होते तो हम we could have used it in the limited amount that is required. उतना मैक्सिमम चाहिए उतना ही भरते, बट वो मैक्सिमम भर के उसके ऊपर भी दे आर फिलिंग इट. So that means that yes, we are dependent on this, over dependence on hydropower projects. Storage capacity of dams should not be fully used before or during monsoon season. ठीक है, so ये तो बोला ही, डायरेक्ट बोला है, स्टोरेज कैपेसिटी शुड नॉट बी फुली यूज बिफोर और ड्यूरिंग मॉनसून सीजन. You should keep some of it, you should have a certain level, utna hi you should keep, and then so that the further you can fill it and distribute it in a regulated manner. ठीक है, तो अगर passage समझ में आया, second statement you could have answered easily. Then you have role of dam in flood control is underestimated in India. Again, this is also true in general, also this statement is true. ठीक है, कि रोल ऑफ डैम जो है फ्लड कंट्रोल में इज अंडर एस्टिमेटेड इन इंडिया. डैम्स प्ले अ मेजर रोल एंड दैट वी आर नॉट यूजिंग इट प्रॉपरली. सो 1 2 3 assumption है ना, तो assumption can be made from outside the passage also, but the passage should be able to hold that assumption. Now next जो passage है, passage 5, in this you have two questions. Economic liberalization in India was shaped largely by economic problems of the government than by economic priorities of the people or by the long term development objective. सबसे पहली बात क्या बोली, इकोनॉमिक लिबरलाइजेशन क्यों हुआ, लार्जली शेप किस फैक्टर से हुआ, जो गवर्नमेंट को प्रॉब्लम आ रही थी, ना कि ये सोच के कि व्हाट डज द पब्लिक नीड और लॉन्ग टर्म में क्या होना चाहिए. बट उसी टाइम गवर्नमेंट को प्रॉब्लम आ रही थी, वो सॉल्व करने के लिए इकोनॉमिक लिबरलाइजेशन. ठीक है, इकोनॉमिक प्रॉब्लम्स ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट, कि गवर्नमेंट के पास फंड्स नहीं है, ये सब, rather than by the economic priorities of people or by long term development objective. Thus, there were limitations in conception and design which have been subsequently validated by experiences. तो ऐसे इसी वजह से there were limitations, और जो कि experience से हमें पता भी चला कि yes, they were there. Jobless growth, persistent poverty, rising inequality have mounted as problems since economic liberalization began. And all these years later, four quite crises confront the economy. Okay, four quite crises confront the economy: agriculture, infrastructure, industrialization, and education as constraints on the country's future prospects. These problems must be resolved in economic growth. These problems must be resolved in economic growth has to be sustained and transformed into meaningful development. ठीक है, so ये रिजॉल्व होने चाहिए इफ इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ हैज टू बी सस्टेन्ड एंड ट्रांसफॉर्म इनटू मीनिंगफुल डेवलपमेंट. सो जब हमने इकोनॉमिक लिबरलाइजेशन किया तो मेन ऑब्जेक्टिव वाज गवर्नमेंट की प्रॉब्लम्स, ना कि प्रॉब्लम ऑफ द पीपल या पीपल्स प्रायोरिटी, एंड ना कि लॉन्ग टर्म ऑब्जेक्टिव्स फॉर द कंट्रीज इकोनॉमी. सो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट देयर वर प्रॉब्लम्स व्हिच वी हैव सीन, दे हैव बीन वैलिडेटेड बाय एक्सपीरियंसेस. अब जो फोर मेजर प्रॉब्लम हम फेस कर रहे हैं, इट इज एग्रीकल्चर, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन, एजुकेशन पर. ठीक है, तो ये प्रॉब्लम रिजॉल्व होनी चाहिए इफ वी वांट इकोनॉमिक दिस ग्रोथ एंड एवरीथिंग. क्वेश्चन क्या है, which of the following is or are the most rational logical inference that can be made from the passage? It is essential to rethink and redefine economic role of state in the quest for development. अब देखो, सबसे फर्स्ट लाइन में ही ऑथर ने बोल दिया कि स्टेट ने तो अपने for their own benefit they decided this is what we should do, rather than thinking ki what do the people need. So obviously yes, it is essential to rethink, redefine. अब इसमें ये नहीं बोला कि स्टेट का रोल हटा दो या remove state from economic this. Rethink and redefine, this is correct in every case. हमें rethink, to evolve, to grow, we have to rethink and redefine role of each and every part of the economy. So this is true for the state's role as well. Rethink, redefine करने का मतलब ये थोड़ी है कि हम उनको criticize कर रहे हैं, हम उनका रोल diminish कर रहे हैं. Maybe we are increasing the role. We are just telling them what path to follow, and we are increasing the role with more vigilance. ठीक है? India has not made effective implementation of its policies in social sectors, nor made sufficient investments in them. अब देखो, जितने भी सेक्टर्स में प्रॉब्लम आ रही है, एग्रीकल्चर, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन, एजुकेशन, we know that education, agriculture, ये सब क्या है? All of these social sectors में अगर invest किया होता तो we would not have faced this problem. So if they say what is the inference that can be drawn, ठीक है? So yes, we can say कि हमने effective implementation नहीं किया. In general we know that this is true. इंडिया ने कोई बहुत ज्यादा ऐसा, we know that अगर effective implementation हुआ होता तो ये poverty, jobless growth, these problems would not have occurred. Since they are occurring, that means yes, author wants to say that effective implementation has not been done. So both 1 and 2, this is correct with respect to the passage. Next, with reference to the above passage, following assumptions have been made. India's economy needs to be greatly integrated with global economy so as to create large number of jobs and to sustain its growth momentum. अब देखो हम क्या बात कर रहे हैं कि स्टेट का जो रोल है वो थोड़ा ठीक नहीं रहा. स्टेट ने डिसीजंस जो लिए अपने प्रायोरिटी के लिए, ना कि द प्रायोरिटी ऑफ द पीपल एंड एवरीबॉडी एल्स. एंड दस अगर इसमें कुछ इंप्रूवमेंट होगी तो विद इन द कंट्री वी हैव टू इंप्रूव, फॉर्मुलेट बेटर पॉलिसीज, कीपिंग पीपल्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इन माइंड, पीपल्स एडवांसमेंट इन माइंड, पीपल्स ग्रोथ इन माइंड. दैट डज नॉट मीन कि आपको फॉरेन में इंटीग्रेट करना पड़ेगा. So this is incorrect. Next, economic liberalization would cause large economic growth which would reduce poverty and create sufficient employment in the long run. अब ये तो हमने बोल ही दिया कि economic liberalization के हमें negatives क्या हुए. This is completely opposite to what the passage is saying. ये तो completely opposite है. So this cannot be our answer. So both neither 1 nor 2, this will be the answer. Because see passage में क्या बोला है कि economic liberalization जो हुआ that was from the government's point of view, government's priorities, government's need instead of people's need and long-term development. And we have seen that in long run, we have seen the issues. We know that we are facing jobless growth, poverty and everything. That means economic liberalization has not been good for us. तो हम ये कैसे मार्क कर दें कि economic liberalization would cause large economic growth? ये तो नहीं हो सकता ना फिर. ठीक है? So both 1 and 2 are not the answer. So neither 1 nor 2. Right? So this was it for the remaining 5 passages. And with this we are done with CSAT 2020 question paper. And I hope that you understood. If you have any doubts, you can comment. And thank you so much for watching the video.